Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Nostalgia Unboxings. Today we are doing not an unboxing, but we're doing a viewer request from, again, my Magi Nation videos for a gameplay video to kind of go over some basic rules and kind of how a turn plays out. It's not going to go super in-depth because I myself am still kind of learning the game. So, things are subject to I guess, change. I think there are some new rules from later decks that were implemented and like new mechanics and whatnot, so I might not go over all of them as they're not present in the cards I have right here or in this, original rulebook and stuff like that. So it'll be pretty basic, but it should be enough to get you started with the game. A great resource that was recommended to me in the comments from those videos as well is something called bluefarok.com. I'll have a link in probably a pinned comment and in the description, so it should be pretty easy to find if you are interested. But I guess it was a fan site made way back in the day, and it's still up, and it's really, really good. It has tons of info, card lists, comprehensive rules. It even has, which I thought was really cool, is a Flash-based interactive tutorial game as well that you can play yourself. But, with Flash dying pretty soon, rest in peace. I'm not sure if whoever is maintaining that site will ever produce a non-Flash-based version. So, unfortunately, that may be lost to time pretty soon here. But if it's still up right now and it's still viewable. If you have to go through some loopholes to enable Flash now on pretty much any big search engine, but it is still possible. I did it. It should work for now. If you did want to go and check that out, and so it's interactive and it's really, really cool. It has nice art and it's pretty fun. So if you want to get into the game and you want to more hands-on instead of maybe watching this video. But, please watch the video first. I can't, don't leave me. But, yeah, then you can check out that site, and it's really cool, and it should help you out a lot. So, starting out here, I have basically everything that came inside the box. I'll be using the Naroom starter deck just for this demonstration because I like the color green. I usually play green in Magic and stuff, so I thought, hey, it's natural for me to go for Naroom. And I also... Actually, we'll get into this after we do some look-seeing here. I also am not going to use the tokens that come with the deck. I am instead going to be using just my own D6s here and my D20 that I use in Magic because I think it'll be a lot easier just to keep track of, really. And I don't want to lose all these little things after I pop them out, which is very annoying and messy. So, of course, we'll put all these here. Again, these are my nice D6s. I wish I knew what brand they were. I just got them at my local gaming store when I first started Magic like 10 years ago. And they're super, super nice. This is the original case thing it came in. And I would very much recommend them if you do see them. There were a ton of colors, so you will definitely find something that suits your liking. This is a Black Lotus D6 that is actually apparently very rare, but it is not the topic of this video, so I don't know, just kind of wanted to highlight the dice in case people are wondering what it was. So on to we will be using the D6 if needed. I don't think we will though. We'll need it, but so we'll move on to the deck. So each, I found out, I counted a couple of my decks that I opened. So these actually come with 44 total cards in them, but a standard deck for Magi Nation is 40 cards minimum. I mean, you could always go over, but it's 40 card minimum. And the reason it is 44 is because I think most decks, and I say most, will come with an extra Magi. So here we have the 3 Magi, which I think, belong in the room. And there's an extra Magi that it came with, which is what the 44 comes from. So, you subtract the 3, you go to 41, and then you remove, and then you have 40 cards left here in this old brick. And now I say usually because I found out that is not always the case. When I looked back through my other decks, I found out that I think it was in my wind deck. I forgot what the actual tribe was. There was a 4th Magi in there, which means that deck is actually unplayable out of the box Because your Magi do not go into your main deck, and I will explain this later. But because there's 5 Magi in there instead of 4, you actually only end up with a 39 card main deck. So that deck, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was a repack, or maybe it's just a consequence of a really bad randomization procedure, I guess, whatever, that they used in the factory when assembling these decks that didn't account for it, because that happened to be the deck that I pulled the foil Magi from. So I'm thinking maybe that's how the extra Magi slipped in there as a foil. Or it could just be a repack and I got screwed over and I'm just an idiot. But I did look through all the decks I did look through, did have 4 rares in each one. So, I mean, that's consistent. But I also got them all from the same guy. So maybe he is a very consistent thief. I don't know. So then the next thing I wanted to go over here, I separated out these 4 cards from the rest of the deck. Because, again, this kind of goes into possibly repacking or possibly just randomization errors. So these are all relics from regions that aren't from the starter deck, and just regions in general that I didn't even get a single Magi from. And unfortunately, relics are exclusive to Magi from that region. So for example, say you're playing Narum, you're using a green Magi from Narum. You can cast spells and creatures from any other region, but they come at a cost. If it's from an outside region, you'll have to pay 1 extra energy. And I'll probably go over that as well at some point in the video, like in a demonstration. But you cannot play any relics whatsoever that come from a region that is not the Magi's region. So basically these are just completely dead cards, and they're unplayable in this deck, really. There's no possible way, I don't think, for you to get any of these out. So it kind of sucks, because 2 of these are actually the rares. The Scroll of Fire and the Motash's Staff. So that is a thing, and I'm, again, not really sure why it does that, because it seems pretty unfair to whoever buys these decks. So I will just be removing them for the sake of the demonstration, because we won't be playing a full game. So, I mean, we can make an exception and play with less than 40 cards in the deck. And because, you know, I mean, if we draw these, it's going to be pointless for the video. So I just wanted to explain that before I actually do it, so it didn't seem kind of weird or anything like that. So we'll be removing these to the side. And the next thing we will do, so to start the game off, so now we have our deck without any random crap inside it. With everything, you know, basically castable in the event that we do need to play it. So let's remove this stuff as well. We'll keep the D6 just in case. We'll keep the booklet here, just kind of to make some room. Here, let's move these over here as well. We don't need this. There, we have a nice little play area here. So first thing you do when you start a game is, actually, I don't remember if you roll first to see who goes first or if you pick your Magi. Although either way, I don't think it really matters if you switch these 2 steps around. So let's just roll the dice. Yeah, we rolled a 6. We are gods here. So we of course go first, because our opponent will never roll as good as we did. So it does specify it is high roll rather than low roll. If, you know, people like to mix it up like that sometimes. In the rulebook, it does specify high roll. So whoever rolls highest gets to go first. Or they maybe choose? I actually don't remember, but I'm sure your opponent really wouldn't care if you chose to go second. So now that that's out of the way, we've established that we'll be going first. We pick our Magi's. So now there's no rule against using different colored Magi's. You could use, we can very much play with this Orthia, but we don't want to because of the restrictions on both relics and the extra costs. I think the game just punishes using different colored Magi a lot and mixing like dual colored decks. So I think like 90% of the time you will want to just play mono region, I guess, and just use one color. So we will be using these 3 as our Magi, and you get to put them in any order you want here, and it starts from the top, or the bottom rather, from where we're looking here. So let's do Proot, and then we'll do this. You don't need to reveal them to your opponent, I don't think, and then you place them face down in a little separate zone. We will save this for our opponent later on. Actually, here, let's flip it like this so it's readable, but just know that this is the opponent. And then you go on to shuffle your deck. We will shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Wait, actually, shuffling doesn't make any sense right now. Okay, sorry about that. Again, I am still learning. So then, when you start the game, you know, your opponent, you both flip the top Magi of your stack. And now this is your starting Magi. So we have Prut, they have Orthia, and the first thing you do is you put some energy on them. So their starting energy is right up here in the corner. So Prut has, you know, bring it up a little bit closer to the camera. So Prut here has 15 starting energy. And we put 15 on them there. See, so that's why I did the D20. It's very nice and no messing around. So if you're going first, the first step typically in a turn is the energize step, where you use this. It's very hard to see. I'm sorry about this, guys. But here. So is the energize step where you energize your Magi. But if you're going first, you skip the energize step because it would be unfair. And it's something to give the person who plays second. They get to energize on their first turn. So it's to balance out, you know, who goes first and second, I guess. So we will not be energizing, but Pruitt has energized 5. And now the important thing here is Pruitt has, or every Magi really, has a starting hand. And it says in the instructions that it is optional. So you could choose to not start with any of these guaranteed and just draw up to 5 cards. But I think we actually have all 3 of these cards. So we will start with them, and then you draw up to 5 from, you know, what you don't have from the starting hand. So he has Vinok, Carillion, and Grow. So we go back to 15, and we search our deck for any starting cards that we wish to use. Vinok, and then I believe the other one was Grow. Oh, one thing I've had to go up against relics, there are also universal relics, and these can be used without penalty in any region. By Magi from, you know, any region. I think there's, later on, they did release, like, universal Magi that can only use universal stuff, like universal is their region. So universal Magi have to pay region cost for stuff from the actual regions. But we will not be doing any of that today. We do not have any universal Magi, so it is completely irrelevant to us, but it's something to keep in mind. So these are basically like generic cards for the sake of regioned Magi. So now we need to find that Grow. Here we go. And we have a Grow. And then you shuffle. You know, we'll do a quick shuffle. It doesn't matter too much here since we're not playing against a player. So let's pretend that that was a good shuffle. So I like my deck to be on my right side because I am right-handed. So you whenever you search in the rulebook, it says whenever you search for a card, a specific card, or a card from a specific region. So from your deck. So basically, essentially, if a card says to search your deck, and it doesn't just say search for any card, if there's any kind of specification whatsoever, you have to reveal that searched card to your opponent to ensure that you're not cheating and that you are, you know, getting the card that fits into that specification. So, you know, you're nice. We reveal our cards and whatnot. So we start out with the Carillion, Vinok, and Grow, and then we draw up to 5 from the top of our deck. So, perfect. So we have a different colored card, so that's nice. So we can demonstrate the region penalty, I guess. And we got a Universal Relic, which we can play. So the next thing you move on to, the next step in the turn after energizing, is the... I'm trying to think now. I forgot what it's called. It's called the Powers, Relics, and Spells phase. I might have mixed those letters up, but it doesn't matter because you can do them in any order you want. So then we have that phase. So we can go Siphon Stone. It has 0 cost here. Most relics, I think, if not all of them, cost 0 to play. So we can drop Siphon Stone on the board, but we can't use its power because we have no creatures in play yet. So next we can play spells, but we have no spell that we can play at the moment. So that basically ends up being our that phase for us because we can't use any of the powers currently and we have no spells that we can cast. So there we go. So we have now Siphon Stone on the board and Pruitt is still at 15. So then the next step you go to is actually the attack step. Being first, we have no creatures, so we would completely just skip over that step for our first turn. And our opponent would also have to do the same thing unless you have some sort of spell or power that brings out a creature before that turn, in which case there is no restriction, and I believe you could just attack right away on your first turn to an unguarded opponent. I feel like there might not be a lot of cards that do that, though. There certainly weren't any, I don't think, that I noticed, at least in these decks that I opened. I could have missed some, but yeah. But according to the rules, it is possible. So then we move on to the play creatures step. So we are allowed to play whatever creatures we want, provided we have energy from our Magi to do it. So we are at 15, so let's do... I like the elephant guy. So we can play Carillion. So we would subtract 4 energy then from this. We go down to 11 on our Magi. And then we can use a d6. Oops, sorry about that. Let's pop one of these out. And we can put... Where's the 4? We can put 4 energy on our elephant there. And the way power works is power is equal to your creature's energy. So right now, this is basically a 4 power creature. And, you know, as the energy goes down, so too will its power, because it is the same number. And that goes for your Magi and everything else, although Magi can't attack. But basically, life and energy are synonymous in this game, for the sake of mechanics and for the sake of winning. And let's also pretend our opponent didn't see our hand just now as I placed it haphazardly on the table. So we have now a Carillion, who is essentially a 4-power creature. He has an effect, which is Resilience. If Carillion attacks a creature that starts the attack with less than 3 energy, Carillion loses no energy in the attack. That's actually a good sounding ability. Here, let's move this a little. Let's make some distance here just so it doesn't. Yeah, let's pretend that's clear. Okay. So this is an effect that only activates when it attacks during a specific time, so it's not a power or anything like that. We have no control over it. It just activates whenever the condition for activation says that it activates, basically. Very simple and easy to follow. So that happens, and that is a thing. So then next we can, I don't know, you can play any amount of creatures per turn, by the way. There is no limit, as long as you have energy on your Magi. And of course, you may want to sometimes balance out the energy that you spend so that you don't get, burned down somehow with a spell. So, for example, let's also throw down Lightning Hyren, which will cost us 6. So we go down from 11 to 5. But the regional penalty does not go on the Hyren, of course, so it still only comes out with 5 energy, as specified on the card. So boom, we have surprised them with a Lightning Hyren. So that is a thing. So basically, the win condition for this game, which I can explain now, so milling the deck has no consequence whatsoever. It is not a possible win condition. If a match does last long enough to where your whole deck is discarded in the discard pile, the rules state you basically just take your discard pile and you shuffle it back. You shuffle it and you just place it back in your deck slot, and now you have a big deck again. The win condition for the game is to defeat all your opponent's Magi, and the way you do that is you have to first defeat all their creatures on board, and then you're able to attack the Magi directly. So, for example, this Orthea, let's pretend she has only 1 energy at the moment. Here, we can use this little white dice to symbolize that. And if I entered a battle phase, for example, on this turn, which I can't technically by the way the turn goes, but if I just attacked her with any of my creatures, right now she has no defending creatures that are standing in front. She would die, and that would be at the end of Orthea, and because my opponent has no more Magi, well, technically, no. Let's pretend that there's 2 face-up Magi that have already been defeated in this pile. We would win the game. So that would be the victory clause, I guess. So now let's remove this here. But let's continue on with our turn as normal. So then after playing the creature step, there is another power, relic, and spell phase afterwards. Note that powers can only be activated once per turn. So if you activated it in the previous power, spell, and relic phase, you cannot do it in the second one of the turn. So that is something to keep in mind. So now that we have some creatures, we could also activate some powers again. So we could do like power refresh here off Prute, which says it costs 2 and choose any one creature in play, add 3 energy to the chosen creature. So we can go all the way down to 3 here to pay that cost, and then we can add 3 energy to, let's add 3 energy to Carillion, because I really like that effect. So we can go up to 6, and then we can add another die here. So now he would be up to 7. That is how that would work, and you could also do this with any other, powers you have. For example, Siphon Stone here says, Power Siphon, choose any one creature in play, discard Siphon Stone from play, and discard 1 energy from the chosen creature. So, I mean, you could do it to your own creatures. I don't really know why, unless you have some kind of really janky combo going on. But, so this card basically allows you to just discard it during your power step, and then ping one of your opponent's creatures for 1 energy as basically a burn spell towards creatures, which is kind of cool, considering it's free. Oh, I actually forgot one thing about relics. There is basically a legendary rule, like for Magic the Gathering, for all relics, no matter what. You can only have 1 of each relic in play on your side. But for example, if I have a Siphon Stone right now, I would not be able to play another Siphon Stone, but my opponent can have their own Siphon Stone, if that makes sense. So it's like Magic the Gathering's current legendary rule. And if you do try to play another, you just cannot play another Siphon Stone. So you can't. If you have 1 in your hand, it's just a brick. You cannot play it. It will not allow you to as long as this Siphon Stone is on the board. I believe if you discard this Siphon Stone and use its effect, then you could just immediately play another one and then do it. Because it doesn't check your discard. But on the board, you only got 1 of each relic. I think I basically went over most of everything here. Oh, for a single turn. But now, for example, let's say we do not have any of these on the board. Let's say now someone attacks let's put this in the discard as well. Now let's say someone attacks our Magi for 3, and this is our first Magi of the game, whatever. So our Magi dies, and we go, no! What happens is you put your Magi on the bottom of the Magi pile, you flip your next Magi, and if you have any sort of other artifacts in play, so let's say we have this artifact in play when our previous Magi dies, it would be discarded immediately as well. So you clear your whole side of the board when your Magi dies. And then you basically do the whole starting thing as you would normally. You do keep, I believe, your starting hand, or you keep whatever cards you had in your hand. These don't get discarded when you lose your Magi. But then I believe you can go to another starting step and pick out your Arbol, Weebo, Farok, and or Grow. Up to 5 cards though, I believe still. And that would be that. Also, the weird thing about this game is your draw step, because you may have noticed I have not gone over any draw step yet. Your draw step is at the very end of your turn, and you draw 2 cards instead of 1, which is really bizarre, and I haven't really seen, I don't think, any other TCG do that. But it is how it works here. You draw at the end of your turn, and you draw 2 cards. So I think it does speed up games, since you do have access to more cards more rapidly, and there's also no limits on what you can summon, and you just have a lot of starting energy. So I think games, especially with more competitive decks, do go by much faster than many other potential TCGs. Definitely, I would assume faster than most Magic games, at least in the standard format, when there's not a bunch of broken combos, which I think is pretty cool. So that is basically it from what I understand. I don't know if I missed anything. If I did, and any of you guys, are much bigger experts than I am at this, please let me know. That would help me out a lot, really, because I feel like I definitely probably missed something. So we do have another Magi here that we didn't lose, but I feel like this video is already kind of cutting into being pretty long, and we've already basically summed up what happens, and this is just a tutorial, so I think we can cut it off here. But if I did miss anything, please let me know, and I'd gladly pin your comment if you have something really cool and more comprehensive to show, so that other people coming to the video can also see that, just in case I got anything wrong or mixed anything up. That'd be really appreciated. If I mixed up any rulings or steps, also point that out, although I'm pretty sure I got them all down pat from at least what was inside this rulebook, unless they maybe have changed the rules. I do know one thing is that erratas to card effects do happen in Magi Nation, or rather did happen, since it's no longer in print. But if you actually look in the back of this rulebook, which I noticed when I was reading it, here we go. So it says MRP rule/unlimited changes. So basically this says that certain cards, when they were reprinted in this unlimited set from the first edition decks, they had some effect changes, and I believe the effects listed here are the changed effects. And you always use the latest printing's effects. So there are erratas in this game, and it's important to take note of that if you are playing. It's probably better to use whatever the latest effect is, obviously, even if you're playing casually, just for the sake of the game, I suppose. So that is a thing to keep in mind. Other than that, that seems to basically be everything. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I wasn't too bad at it. This is something I've never done before. I've never done a tutorial or anything, so I'm sure I rambled and messed everything up, and it's been a complete disaster. No, I'm sure it was alright. Please tell me it was alright. But yeah, so, I mean, I had fun kind of doing this. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please subscribe. That would help me out a lot. Drop a comment, drop a like or dislike. All of that stuff is greatly appreciated and helps me out, and I also would just love to interact with you guys as well. So I make a new video every Saturday, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.